and welcome to all of the ups and downs for this, the final episode of Star Trek Discovery. And it sounds very strange saying that, the final episode. I've gotten used to saying final episode of the season, and I've got used to belaboring the suddenly final episode, but that's still because I haven't quite got over These Are the Voyages all those years ago. But we've had a bit of time to sit on this, and we've known that this was coming for the guts of a year now. So now that it's finally arrived, I'm a bit of a mix of emotions, and I think this is going to be one that's going to be talked about for quite some time to come. So before we jump straight into it, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has followed along with our ups and downs for Star Trek Discovery. From I took over season 3 and then into season 4 and now season 5 as well. So thank you everyone who has supported me through all of that. Thank you for supporting Chris, who has lost all sorts of sleep trying to get these videos across the board. And of course, most recently as well, thank you to everyone who has been supporting Jack, who's been writing the written articles to correspond with these videos as well. There is of course one that is available for this week's episode 2. So do make sure that you check that out over on whatculture.com. And I haven't forgot you, Tom who's edited some of these videos as well. In fact, he edited last week's episode. This has been one of the most fun projects that we've done here on TrekCulture. And by no means is this us announcing our retirement. There is many more ups and downs to come. Don't get me wrong. To everyone who has followed along the journey of Discovery from the beginning, from our beginning and up to now, thanks so much. There is a podcast currently available where I get to interview Wilson Cruz. He talks about his journey as part of Discovery, and he does address some of the moments in this episode as well, particularly that reshoot that was added after filming had been completed and once they learned that it was actually the end of the show overall. So thank you so much, Wilson, for that. Don't forget to check that out. We have both the audio and video versions are available. Okay. Everyone subscribed, everyone is awesome, you guys are great. Don't forget to check out our new podcast every Tuesday. Are we good? Shall we jump into life itself? Starting off this week with an up is that gorgeous opening shot. Again, I think we've been a bit spoiled for just how pretty this season looks. And we get this sort of montage. I like it a bit. It was like watching Interstellar. Building on from last week's down, if you like, which was that I felt we should have had something a little bit more when Burnham stepped through the portal. Her waking up in this lobby of sorts would have been, I think, quite a good way of ending last week's episode. That does not detract from its up this week. It's an up I would have loved to have given last week. Now, I will have to say, I do have to give a down to... Don't get me wrong, I really like the design of this lobby that Burnham finds herself in, but it does seem like a gateway to the AR wall. And I think at this stage, the inventor of the AR wall is probably going to have to pay us a visit and probably kick our asses for how much we have brought them up in downs. I don't really know if this answers the great is it amazing or is it not argument. It is certainly a wonderful tool, and the idea of tools is addressed in this episode. I just feel it was a bit noticeable, particularly in this opening scene. Now, a whopper of an up this week, and because it begins so early, but actually this up sort of extends throughout the whole episode, and that is for Jeff Russo. His musical score for this episode is so varied, and there's a lot of differences and also a lot of returning themes throughout Discovery, and in fact Star Trek overall, that makes appearances here. I can hear cues that are very evocative of the motion picture, of the Wrath of Khan, it was even mentioned previously as well, the search for Spock is in there too. You can hear it all, and it just feels like a wonderful musical tribute to Star Trek, as well as they are thematically so important, particularly Wrath of Khan, of course, but also motion picture. In musically anyway. Jeff Russo, what an up for you. Thank you so much for your score this week. Walking through all of these portals, if you like, that are found available in, shall we say, the Progenitor's lobby, we see snippets of different worlds, some of which I'm going to go to. Cetacean Observations is going to be, as you can guess, a bit of a big one this week. But there's lots of different worlds we think they may be. But one that Burnham quickly finds herself on, thanks to a little bit of gravity jiggery-pokery, is one that I'm going to call Galorndon Core. It is, at the very least, it is a primordial planet that is so evocative of Planet Hell, or Stage 16, whatever you want to call it. And it is there we get our first bout of action of the episode when, well, first Burnham finds a Breen with his helmet caved in and some goo leaking out on the ground there, and a second Breen who doesn't seem very happy to see Burnham. And I guess if you're in that fight or flight method, yeah, okay, I can understand that. And then quite suddenly a hurricane kicks up, but they're fine though, because they just hold on to the rock. And I could not help but think of Ripley in Aliens, whose one arm was able to withstand the entire vacuum of space. I like that they're doing nods to other sci-fi properties. This, of course, leads to Burnham doing her Super Mario Bros. Kind of bloop, 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 back up into the lobby as well. And I just really wanted to go bloop, bloop, bloop. But back up the Breen gets. We had a little bit of a chat in-house. I'm putting my foot down. There are two Breen. One had his helmet caved in. The other one just got blown effectively up, out, and into the lobby. But he gets put down by Moll. And down. Why has Moll suddenly turned her back on the Breen? She comes floating down to meet with Burnham. She's just shot a Breen in front of Burnham. And, you know, she says, oh, well, the other one got really annoyed at me because I caved his helmet in. And yet, only last week, we had Moll writing these massive checks about how she and Locke would rule the Breen and, you know, they would look after everyone and they care about the Breen. Well, that lasted a long time, didn't it? If you think this is harsh, perhaps you might go, well, her entire raison d'etre is Locke. And that's what Moll is about. And I do have sympathy for that. I do, but I don't know, she seemed to be close with at least this Lieutenant Arisar, that it wasn't just a means to an end. I was disappointed by how quickly she kind of went, oh, right, so you just are on nobody's side then. All right. Now, there was a nice little scene where Burnham throws her dermal regenerator to Moll. They sort of, are they friends? Are they not? But, what I will say, up for those opening credits. We live in an age where a lot of us will just go, skip intro. But for this one, if you did do that, I'd advise you go back because it's a bit of a best of. We've got Discovery OG flying through those Klingon mechleths or batleths or whatever they were called that week. We have the Red Angel, we've got Book's ship, we've got Zora, we've got the OG Discovery, not combat, insignia anyway. We've got a Section 31 badge in there, and it's effectively, as I said, it's a bit of a, and here we go. And it brings us right up to the end of it, which is what we now know is it's the Progenitor's lobby. Yeah, nice. It was a nice walk through memory lane. Oh, let's not forget that EV suit helmet either. Back out in space, we have some cool, effectively, battle shots going on. The Discovery is being chased not just by the Breen Dreadnought, which is a little bit slow thanks to Discovery smashing its way into it, but now chased by a whole bunch of Breen fighters. Take and up. Frankly, it's just a bloody cool shot. In typical Discovery fashion, they're being fired upon and Discovery is sitting there and someone is hitting the flamethrowers and you've got more flame than Elon going mad at a Rammstein concert. It is a down from me. Who the hell designs your starships? Let us not forget, of course, while all this is going on, we have what is Starfleet going to do about this? Because remember, the Breen Primarch Tahal is taking her fleet out to the Lagrange point as well because she's got wind that there's something worth investigating out there. So we've Admiral Vance, we've got Action Saru, and we've got Nan all sitting there going, well, you know, Saru's volunteered to take this shuttle and Vance says, I can't in good conscience order anyone to go with you because they've decided they're going to de-arm the shuttle so that there can be no misinterpretation that Saru is not coming with as an envoy of war, he's coming as an envoy of peace. Nan straight away volunteers to go with Saru, and Saru says, as of course, we both have family on that ship, because it's about family, it's all about family. Chris has put up a picture of Vin Diesel, hasn't he? Regardless, it was an up from me. Things are getting slightly more chaotic around the black holes. That is because the Breen are chasing Discovery, but the portal is effectively stuck in the accretion disk of this black hole. How are they going to get to it? And, you know, their captain's inside it. They need a way to get her out. Enter Book's excuse to be in the episode for a week. And I will say, no, Book was good this week. One of our points throughout the season is that after a very strong start of having Book back, there was a few episodes where it's just like, why is Book on this mission? But yes, this is the kind of thing that I can see him excelling at. After all, he has been a smuggler, he has been a pilot extraordinaire. He does seem like the kind of person that could pilot a shuttle into such extreme gravitational forces. What I do like as well is Rayner effectively going, yeah, listen, I'm okay with this. This is fine. This makes sense to me. Take a shuttle, book, taps him, and away he goes. He beams down. So their problem, of course, being that there's so much radiation around that the shuttles are not designed to put up with that level of radiation. So this is what leads to our scene in engineering, where you've got Stamets and Adira, who have become a very effective double team. I really like them together, but they have this device that will effectively attach to the shields. It sort of boosts the shield strength to absorb the radiation, giving Book a lot longer to sit there in the radiation and live. Or as Stamets says, after a certain point, you just won't survive. You know, Book's like, thanks, buddy. I really needed to hear that. So then, of course, you get I'm going to say this is a completely inevitable moment where Culber comes in, gives Book basically an ejection that'll give him a bit longer. It says, by the way, I'm going with you. Stamets begins to argue, and Culber says, this isn't a debate. Up. And I tell you why I'm upping this is because there isn't then serious looks and Stamets is angry, everything. No, they understand each other. And Culber's mind is made up, and Stamets is totally there for that. Now, I was maybe going to down, oh my God, is Stamets going to say no every single time a member of his family is going to go on a away mission? But actually no, because they don't linger on this. And there is a moment, which I will return to, but there is a moment where Culber says, I feel like I need to be there. I feel like I was meant to be there. And Stamets listens, and that's enough for him. So actually, I quite like that. Now, myself and Chris were talking about, how would our respective partners react if we were just going to nip off into space, into the accretion disk of a black hole and be like, hey, yeah, see you for supper. Well, I suppose by the time it gets there, the technology will be there that we'll be okay, right? This is all, of course, set up to try and help retrieve Burnham and Maul, but there's a lot more to deal with there. So we're going to park Discovery for a second. We're going to head back inside the portal. Burnham and Maul are going to work together for what feels like about 5 seconds before Maul... Oh, well, I suppose to be fair, Burnham sort of throws the first punch here, but Maul is keeping Burnham at gunpoint, so I'm actually kind of okay with that. So, up from me is how Burnham and Maul will have to figure out the details of, you got to think beyond 3 dimensions here, and I do enjoy that element of this. But down from me is that this completely stateless fight that happens between them, it feels like this could be a 1-2 punch and you would get the same outcome, whereas it feels like a bit of an excuse to do some high wire stunts and to drip down through these different portals as well. For me, it was all a bit, we were always going to get to the progenitors tech, like that's where we were headed, so this does feel like padding a tiny little bit. It does give us those great shots of, so I will be honest. So the pink planet, this to Chris is Shaka-Ree. To me, this is a planet with pink foliage. No one can prove that it isn't Shaka-Ree, so I would like to know, what do you think in the comments? There is logic behind this. Now I will say this is not just wishful thinking. If your mission was to seed life throughout the galaxy, would it not make the most sense to start in the middle and work your way out? So that's why I'm like, okay, it could be. Perhaps I'm not sold on it. Now, in the same way that when they end up on the Fire Planet, you can't prove to me it's not Mustafar. Yeah, all right, well, it might be something else. That, however, I will come back to in Cetacean Observations. Back outside the portal, before Burnham and Maul end up where they're going to end up, we get that great scene where Discovery utilizes, effectively, the Riker maneuver. Now, this was very obviously telegraphed, but I am going to give it an up because it's just, well, for one, it looks bloody cool, and it's another one of those cases of it's quick, but everyone on the bridge gets to work together. And especially the fact that Reese gets to fire the torpedoes because he's been very good this year, but also Rayner finally looks over and there's kind of a moment between them, the one we longed for when the ISS was flying away from that wormhole. We get a bit of it here, so look, credit where credit is due. Rayner and Reese, that is a buddy cop movie that I want to see. Now, these torpedoes that he fires ignites all of this plasma that blows up 40 Breen fighters. Woo, we slaughtered the Breen, let's all have a cheer. And oh, okay, yeah, it's a bit of an odd moment for cheering, but hey, they're out of danger for the moment. Burnham and Maul do find this negative space that we see between the lights of the lobby. Through that, they manage to walk through a Mac screensaver into what they discover to be, effectively, everything else was just the lobby. As I say, this is the main room. It feels almost like, think of the spokes of Deep Space Nine that lead into that central, the central hub, because that's of course where we discover, well, for one thing, the ring that's been on every bloody poster for Star Trek Discovery Season 5. We're like, oh, there it is. And yeah, we see a bunch of triangles, little glass triangles sitting on a flat surface. I am going to have to give a down because this was the most obvious riddle in the world. Make the shape of the one among the many. Oh, great, cool. So we're supposed to do a triangle there with an empty space in between. Cool. Oh, sorry, we're going to make about a 15-minute story arc out of this. Right. Down because it was so obvious, but also it hurts Maul's character. You know, Maul says, oh, so we build a triangle out of these pieces. Burnham literally says, no, it's the negative space. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so is Maul just like, haha, well, I will try this and be silly anyway. And so Maul tries this and just gets electrocuted. Basically, she's stuck there like the Mirror Universe scientist has attached an agony booth to this stadium. And also, down just that, you know, Burnham effectively tells her what to do, and so she wallops her on the back of the head, and Burnham goes down hard. Fair play, Sonequa Martin Green. But Maul, at this point, you're not acting like an intelligent human being. And then not only that, but on top of that, she releases Locke from the pattern buffer, where we know he has at least 75 years of life that he can sit in there, and every time you release him, he loses a bit more of that life. That was a bit of an odd decision, but I think on the flip side, even under heavy makeup, nice to see Elias Tufexis back for the final episode. Maul's actions cause the technology in this room to, if not activate properly, then certainly to kick into life. Now that causes some problems for the portal outside, and suddenly you've got Book and Culber going, what do we do? But not quite, because Culber's journey effectively comes to fruition here. He remembers via the memories he shared with Janal that there is a specific frequency, which, if you will allow me to consult my notes for one moment, 5.1732. And does that work as a payoff for this storyline? I'm not convinced. Is the acceptance that he doesn't have all the answers, is this a satisfying conclusion for Culber's journey? Now that it's his entire journey, his character arc from episode 1 comes to a close here. I would have to say no, is the short answer to that one. I'm going to not down it because that was never the final plan. And I think it suffers more because it's the accidental end of the arc. I think he sells it. I think Wilson Cruz sells this scene. So for me, this scene in the shuttle is actually an up. I know I sound so thrilled about it, but it is that combination of Book's journey as the courier, as the pilot, he needs to be there. Culber's journey, not only as a doctor, but also he is the last living, to a point, person to have interacted directly on a deeper level with one of the scientists. And I will buy it. I will buy it. I do feel he needed to be there in the shuttle. My hesitation being, that's it then. That's Culber. And but yeah. Say, do you remember Tahal? Saru and Nan use a shuttle equipped with a pathway drive to catch up with Tahal's fleet, and they hail them. We get another, so Tahal just speaks English, because why wouldn't you? Although I suppose you could argue that they've just installed the universal translator at this point, so we'll leave that for a moment. And Tahal is full of the usual breen bluster, basically going, what are you on? Why are you here? You're a shuttle, will you flip off, will you? Saru opens with stern diplomacy, and he drops a little tidbit that effectively confirms they suspect that Tahal has got bases in a certain location. He drops that and says, oh, you know, if you side with us, we'll establish a trade route. You know, you'll kind of have the Federation's backing for this Primarch war. And she's like, nah, bro, I'm fine, and hangs up. Saru's like, you just confirmed that information. Saru rings back again. Taken up, action Saru. Saru's kind of scary in this scene. I am a Kelpian, we are a race of predators, and I have studied you like prey. He does not hold back. Calls her a coward because he's trying to rile her, but effectively she goes, what are you gonna do? You're just one Kelpian, and although she doesn't say it, and one Barzan, what are you going to do? He effectively says, yeah, I'm gonna have every one of those neighboring worlds attack your bases. You will be crippled, you will lose the war for premiership. And she's like, ah, you're bluffing. Look into my eyes and tell me if you see even the slightest glimmer of doubt. We're gonna take an up there, and Saru, kind of make me have feelings there. Anyway, Tahal also has feelings, because she's like, yeah, this guy's crazy, I'm out of here. And she turns a fleet around. She does leave a scout ship to head on as far as the black holes, as in fairness as you would. Burnham wakes up from her very sudden, unexpected nap, and she sees that Maul is still being electrocuted there. Lak is there on the ground, and she's just like, oh, for God's sake. So she walks over and she knocks Maul to the ground. Maul is injured, and then Burnham comes back around. Well, obviously she knows it's not the triangle. And at this point, we were screaming at the screen. It's like the crystal maze. And you got to figure out all the clues to make sure that the crystal activates. You could almost see Richard O'Brien in the background. And it was just so great to see her turn on dark mode. Take it up. I love the fact that everything just goes. All of my devices are in dark mode, so I really appreciated this. But this, of course, leads to taken up an appearance by a TNG original makeup style progenitor. I think from the moment in Red Directive we saw it was going to be the progenitors, I was like, we're going to get a progenitor. Now, where, we had no idea. And I think where the appearance happened really works for me. Part of me would be like, oh, I'd love to get Salome Jens back, but the woman is in her 90s, let's let her rest. It both takes out all of the tension, not in a detrimental way, but also you see that this progenitor is not in any rush, and explains to Burnham, you're outside of time now. Because Burnham's like, straight away, love to talk to you, but actually what Maul's done is, the portal's damaged and Maul's hurt and my friends are in danger. And the progenitor is effectively like, all of that is true, but you are not existing in that time. You're in this time. They are speaking billions of years apart, and yet in the same moment. It's head trippy if you're trying to track it on a calendar. In that conversation as well, they talk about the ultimate power of this technology and how it can be used for good, and of course how it can be used for ill. And the progenitor says, a brick is a brick. How you choose to use it will define how detrimental or beneficial it is. And then we get a moment that I was just like, what? This is what we learned about this technology when we found it. Taken up, it's not the progenitor's technology. And I thought that was a bloody twist. So much so that this is my Latinum up of the week. I thought, what a great twist at this point of the game, that the mystery is even bigger again. And we've already gone through so much just to get here. And I thought that was a wonderful, because of course it leaves the air of possibility just open once again. The progenitor's role here is to teach the new guardian of this technology how to use it. And I feel that there will be people who may watch this episode and they will have seen 5 seasons of Michael Burnham's show, bear with me, and be like, oh, well, of course it's Michael. Of course Michael's the only one. I would challenge that narrative. I think that particularly in the episode Labyrinths, there's a great message that says, it is not you specifically, Michael, that we were looking for. It is a person who has managed to piece the clues together and has combined basically the traits that we are looking for so that you will be able to be worthy of this technology. And I feel that anyone could have gone through that journey. Not everyone will have succeeded, of course. Michael is really the only person who could be in this position at this point. Thematically, it works for Star Trek Discovery. I think there will be some people who will be perhaps disappointed or maybe dissatisfied with this. I'm not going to entirely criticize you for that way of thinking either. I think I'm going to say this a lot. I wish there had been a season 6. I really do. For now, I am very satisfied with Burnham's character journey to the point where I fully believe that she would make the decision that she makes. Back out in space, we get a little bit of our last hurrah of action, and that is Saru hailing Discovery, letting them know that there is a scout ship from Tahal on the way in. The Breen Dreadnought is starting to ramp back up again. They are really out of time. I mean, they can't leave the shuttle and the portal sitting there. Something has to be done. And that's when we get the brilliant idea of jumping something via the spore drive that isn't Discovery itself. Rayner asked the question, can we do that? And Tilly goes, no. Maybe? Taken up. I will say, Tilly doesn't get a lot to do in this episode, and that is a shame. That really is. Now, there is still cool stuff to come, but then, of course, we cut to Stamets going, no, of course not. Well, actually, if you think about it, yeah. And basically, you've got to put something in between two of the bits. We get a saucer separation taken up. Saucer separation of Discovery, which is very, very cool. So we're going to have this quantum entanglement of getting the Breen Dreadnought and the scout ship in basically this mycelial network and flinging them off the galactic barrier, which, as Rayner says, take him a couple of decades to get back, but it's more than they gave his family. And it's just, it was added for the cool factor, but it worked for me. Don't hate me, I have it down for just how much of an afterthought the saucer separation kind of feels like. Because, think about any other saucer separation. Generally, you have people running, toing and froing, getting in between the saucers, and I know time is a premium, but when you can do, I'm in engineering now, I'm in sickbay now, whoops, I'm in space now. You can afford a few seconds of that. So it is a little bit of a down. That then, of course, leaves Discovery in a position to head back toward the shuttle. Burnham tells the progenitor she needs time to think about this, which again, I think only strengthens my belief as to why she was the perfect person to be there at that time. The progenitor says, all you need to do to shut everything down is take your hands off the podium when you're out there and come back to me if and when you're ready. There is no pressure. I love this. I absolutely love this. Burnham comes back out, but she has discovered a very, very, very important thing, that yes, the technology can be used to create life and to rework life very much in the way that the Genesis device can, but it cannot restore life, which is what Maul's hope had been. So Burnham breaks the news, and although they're not friends, I think Maul realizes Burnham's not lying to her when she says, there's nothing here that can bring Locke back. And so Locke is put back in the pattern buffer, and they manage to get out. They get on board the shuttle. There is, just a lovely scene. It's very quick. Book and Burnham, they get back aboard Discovery. Before we go on, I want to quickly address, I guess, Maul and Locke as a whole this season. I'm going to spend a second on it because I feel that we will probably do a video on, our sort of post-mortem of season 5. I am very sad that we didn't get, even if it was a message, something from Locke in episode 10, because I feel that once he died in episode 7, I kept waiting for something more, and perhaps that was the intention, that we were supposed to be there with Maul going, well, no, we're not giving up, we're not going up. But if that was the case, then it's too rushed in this episode. So the resolution of Maul and Locke for me was a down. Back aboard Discovery, Burnham, Saru, Rayner, Stamets and Adira gather in the observation lounge in the ready room, because they're sort of interchangeable on this ship, and Burnham announces her decision. This power is too big for one person to be in charge of, and so what they're going to do is effectively they're just going to put it beyond the event horizon of a black hole, which is further than current technology would be able to address it again, but the portal being so powerful that whoever originally created it may be able to either recreate it or come back and claim it at some point. Stamets quickly is effectively like, what are you doing? And I think Stamets is a stand-in for some of the audience here, because his frustration is clearly matched by some of ours, quite frankly. Saru, in continuing his action Saru thing, this is not about your legacy. It's like, oh my goodness, taken up from me. But also, I'm not downing Stamets' reaction there. I'm really not, because I can absolutely understand his frustration and just, ugh. But I do think Burnham is right. Once, already in the 32nd century, they have technology that could be like God-level technology. You give them this, what's left to do? It's one of the reasons the Genesis device could never be left in the hands of Starfleet, or at least in use by Starfleet, looking at you, Daystrom Station. It's just too much. And I do love that Burnham's journey from start to finish left her in a position where she was able to go, we are not yet old enough, we are not yet experienced enough, and we are not yet wise enough to use this technology well. Let's put it away for someone who can. And if that isn't a great message of understanding oneself, I don't know what is. Taken up. There was a couple of quick ones I have to put in there. One is, as Burnham is flying back through time in the portal, we get a quick glance of Starbase 1, and you cheeky feckers, that's an up from me, because you put that shot in a trailer. I've been waiting for time travel for the entire season. Burnham's reminder that we already have infinite diversity and infinite combinations, that is another up from me. That is the message of Star Trek. Let us also not forget the progenitor's utterance of that phrase. You know, I thought it couldn't be that simple, and the progenitor goes, often the most important things are simple. Taken up. Now that effectively brings the action of Discovery to a close. We then get a scene where we jump back to Federation HQ, which itself is an up, by the way, that was gorgeous. And we get a meeting. Quick resolution of Book and Moll. It's a sweet scene. Basically, it feels very much like, well, this was going somewhere in season 6, because Nan says Kovich wants to see her, which we then go to Kovich, and we get this scene. This is Burnham and Kovich. They have a little talk about Kovich. Kovich says, you're one of the most aggravating people I've ever met, but I want to keep you around, so you keep that infinity symbol. And Burnham twigs, your name's a code name, isn't it? It's not actually Kovich. And Kovich kind of looks at her, and she goes, let's do this again. He goes, it's a bit of a red directive. And she goes, oh, I'm familiar with them now. And she extends her arm and says, I'm Captain Michael Burnham of the Discovery. And he shakes her hand and says, Agent Daniels of the USS Enterprise, and other things. My dilithium up of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery is tying it all back in to the temporal wars, to Star Trek Enterprise, to Daniels. This was shivers up and down my spine. We get a great scene of Easter eggs after that. It goes away toward explaining maybe this white room is at a temporal observatory. Does this make Daniels the future guy from Enterprise? Any of those things could be possible. Any of them could be completely off the wall. But having Daniels link Discovery and Enterprise for me. So I guess it's time for a wedding. So, I mean, taken up, we go for a wedding. And I mean, what's not to love? I will say though, Duvin is there at the wedding. What's he doing there announcing these newlyweds? He was totally against it. Although now I think of it, was part of their kind of teasing of him to make him announce them to the room? In which case, taken up, Tarina, you fox you. Although I do have to say, and I'm very sorry, Tarina's haircut is a down from me. That is a choice. It is wonderful to see everyone there. Tilly announcing the mentor program in Starfleet Academy is something I believe we're going to see. Like, is this a massive tease for Starfleet Academy? I think so. So that's an up from me. Plus, nice to see a return of Tilly's boy from Red Directive. That's an up from me. And now we just have to go with a whopper of a down. And I think you know where this is going. Why wouldn't Owosakun and Detmer be at Saru's wedding when the new crew of Discovery are? Well, Obviously, look, we know in real life they were not available for filming, which is why, and we've already addressed in the Trilithium Down that they weren't there this season. So yeah, but it's a down for me because it's not even attempted. Yeah, just anything. Oh, Detmer, they're off on a deep space mission. You know, wish they were here. They send their love. You know what I mean? So yeah, that to me is a down. And then you just get that scene on the beach. Up. Look, at this point, you either believe Book and Burnham are endgame or you don't. And I do. And I'm a sucker for a happy ending. So she tells him, I never stopped loving you. He says the same thing back to her. It's beautiful. I get teary-eyed. Listen, I'm just so happy. And I'm even happier that after they go off on their mission for Kovich, we jump forward and we see that they are a happily married couple. I believe they're on Sanctuary 4, because of course we got that name drop there in that scene. So they've got this prairie hipster house sitting there looking very out of Nepenthe there. We've got that deer Alice walks up. Castro probably would have shot that if she was there. But it's just everything about this. I'm joking because I love it. Beeswax and honey in the coffee? Yeah, that's an up. You know, Book's not allowed to go to the, go on Burnham's mission? Yeah, sure, that's an up. Leto, Burnham, Book, because we don't know, are they double barreling or whatever? Love it. Yeah, taken up. Captain Leto. I like the uniforms, so taken up for me. Just was clearly the Admiral's uniform must be inspired by the dress uniforms of Strange New Worlds. Just has to be. That delta on the ground, on the garden, that's an up from me. Chris, I think that's a fair down from that. The fact the shuttle didn't land on that, because that would have been a nice tie back to the Shenzhou. What else we got? I'm literally flying through the ups here, all of the references, because I'm just so happy that they're happy together. You know, Burnham and Leto flying back to Federation HQ, or Federation 3Q at this point, and just the wisdom that she is imparting to him about let your crew become a family together, let them understand themselves. Everything about that. I mean, he doesn't feel ready, but does any captain really feel ready before they take the big chair? We get back then to Federation HQ, we see a lot of lovely ships, and then thank you so much in a scene that is so clearly brought ahead by a couple of seasons, which is fine. We finally get our tie into Calypso. Finally. That's all I wanted. So we do it. Burnham boards the ship, which is being de-retrofitted. She speaks to Zora, and we get that scene, which is, look, on the one hand, this is cheese incorporated. On the other hand, it's great to see everyone back again, including Detmer and Owo. So obviously they came back and filmed scenes for this, are taken up. This where we know obviously Wilson Cruz wasn't available, so they do basically they digitally insert him. That's an up from me. Reno's there. That's an up from me. You know, we get pretty much everyone. Oddly enough, we don't get the new crew except for Christopher, but he's been there for a couple of seasons. But we do get Bryce is back as well, taken up from me. Things like that to celebrate the legacy of the show. Burnham gives Zora her mission, that she's going to go and wait, and we know that she's going to go and wait. And there's one word, because I rewatched clips of the other day, the word craft, taken up. And the final let's fly, Discovery 1031 Crossfield class leaves Archer Space Dock for the last time to an honor guard of a lot of ships that seem to be aware of a red directive, but I can look past that, and it jumps away. The end. Would you kindly join me at Cetacean Observations? Okie dokie, we have gateways to other worlds, which I am taking. So now that we know that it's not the progenitors tech, gateways to other worlds, well, what does that make you think of? Iconian. We have Galorndon Core. Now let's list those planets that we think that this could be. If I have them written down here, feck, where are they? What worlds could they be? We have one that we think could be Viridian 3 or Vilmore 2. We have one that we're pretty sure is Galorndon Core, an ice planet that could be Rorapenthe, Andoria. We have a fire planet that I lovingly call Mustafar, but it could be Benev Selek, which would actually have been previously seen from Pen Pals. You remember when Data made friends with Sarjenka? We have the planet that could be Shakari, and we have one that could be Ryza with those wonderful oceans and rocks as well. The opening credits moving through time, we've got Bookship, the Klingon weapons, we've got the Red Angel, we've got the spacesuit, the OG insignia, the communicator, we've got the thing for Zora and the construct at the end as well. We have the return of the pathway drive. We have the fight on Shakari, because why not? The high-energy plasma plan is clearly the Riker maneuver from Insurrection as well. Rayner, in fact, references what happened on Kamau. Burnham manages to at least mollify Maul for a second by saying, I know what it's like to lose someone who means everything to you. I got him back, referencing, of course, the end of season 4. We get the reference, of course, to the pattern buffer again. We get the 32nd Century Federation logo on Ambassador Saru's shuttle. Burnham going, we're standing on it, when she realizes that they're at the progenitor's tech. That, to me, seemed like a deliberate reference to season 2 of the Ronald D. Moore and David Icke's reimagined Battlestar Galactica, but for fear of spoilers, I won't say where. The progenitor writing that has been on the poster for all season is surrounding that platform. We have a great joke from Culber going, I'm a doctor, not a physicist. Nan turns to Saru after staring down Tal and says, remind me never to play you in Ferengi Rummy. Well, when we just did the ups and downs for Emissary recently, that's almost word for word quoting O'Brien as he talks to Major Kira. Vulcan meditation seems to calm Burnham's mind as she figures out what's happening. We see an actual live progenitor. The music that's playing over this scene. Now, this could be a reach, but it's very evocative of Mark Streitenfeld's score for the movie Prometheus, particularly when they're talking about the creation of life. It's very, very similar. The device itself is effectively the Genesis device. The music as it goes on is very similar to the motion picture and V'ger, as I said earlier on. The Breen are sent off to the galactic barrier, which we saw in season 4, and of course back in the original series. Dr. Derricks was the one who actually made contact with the progenitor. That just seemed like fun, really. Sources up. We had Starbase 1. Yeah, you cheeky feckers, I see you there. We have Giorgio's telescope makes a couple of appearances, one in the observation lounge, and it seems later on in that Coda filming as well. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. This is not about your legacy. It's probably a bit of a reach. The Wrath of Khan music inspiration when Stamets is speaking to Adira, at least that certainly feels like that. We jump back to Federation HQ, we see a Constitution class, Eisenberg class, Saturn class, Mars class, Courage class, and a Marion class. Now, we get to Kovach's quarters. So, what do we see as we look around? We see what appears to be a Vulcan chess set. Not 3D chess, more 2D. Once we discover who he is, a lot of this stuff makes more sense. There's a microscope sitting behind Kovach's shoulder, which seems to be the very same one that Janeway said she inherited from her grandfather in the episode Counterpoint. There is a Terran knife. There is one of those Dustbuster Season 1, Season 2 Next Generation phasers. The collected rank insignia they're framed on velvet in his office as well. There is what seems to be the bottom of a Horgon, which is quite fun. We're learning things about Daniels or Kovach today. A bottle of Chateau Picard, year 2249, which is the year that Burnham graduated from the Vulcan Science Academy and took up her posting on the USS Shenzhou. We have what could only be Geordi's visor. Yes, Lower Decks has introduced other people wearing that visor, but you know what I mean. There is a very clean-looking baseball, which we reckons can only be a reference to the wonderful Captain Benjamin Sisko. And of course, the fact that he's Daniels himself, massive reference to the Temporal Wars, to Enterprise. Book says that he is late for the wedding because he bumped into some Talaxian pirates. Good to see that they're doing so well. We get reference to the World Route from Quajon, and Molly, who's the big worm-looking yoke that effectively ate Burnham the first time that they met. That's good fun. The World Route makes another appearance when we go to what I'm calling Sanctuary 4, and we see that telescope again there. The Alice deer, who is named by Burnham, of course. She was read Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by her mother, Amanda Grayson, when she was growing up. Shuttle number 47 is the shuttle that brings Burnham and Leto to Federation HQ. Aforementioned, the Admiral's uniform seems inspired by the Strange New Worlds court uniforms. Life itself. Choose to spend the time that we have wisely. This feels not only as a mission statement for Discovery overall, and to drop the name of the episode, but also very evocative of that speech that Picard gives at the end of The Inner Light as Kamen. Choose to make now the most important time. We get to Federation HQ, we see, in addition to what we've already seen earlier on, we see 3 Federation class ships, we see a Friendship class, and we see the Archer space dock. We see Dot 7s removing the A from the Discovery. Burnham says it is one last dance. We get Kraft, who is of course a reference to Calypso, and as Burnham sits in the captain's chair for the last time, we get the Picard maneuver, and then of course we get Reno, Detmer, Oo, Rayner, Saru, Stamets, Christopher, Bryce, Adira, Linus, Tilly, and Reese, and via stock footage we get Culber, which is an up from me. Oddly missing are Asha, Naya, Gallo, and Jemison. That brings us to it. Who created this technology? Was it the Iconians? Was it the Preservers? We don't know. All we know is that, as it stands, I would say that this is a satisfactory ending for Star Trek Discovery. It is rushed by the very nature of its additional scenes, but they did a brilliant job with the time that they had available to them. And I say hats off. You never know. Perhaps we will get a movie in the future that explores some of the things, but also don't forget we have Starfleet Academy, which is a spin-off. And considering Burnham took the opportunity to say to Leto that Tilly, Mary Weissman, has the greatest job security of anyone in Starfleet ever because she is the longest serving tenured instructor at the Academy. Nice. Nice. We will, of course, be back to you with a sum-up video of the things that have gone through the season again, stuff that we probably missed, more references that are in there, but we're going to give you a breather for today. So thank you very much for watching along. Thank you so much, as I say, once again, to everyone for your support on this series. We will be back with a series of retro ups and downs. We will be starting with, I think makes the most sense, The Chase from The Next Generation. So that will be with you very soon. Until I see you again, thank you so much, everyone. You are awesome, you are wonderful, you are brilliant. Live long and prosper. Let's fly. Thanks so much, everyone.